and welcome to this episode of Words Want Wisdom. And I am delighted to be joined by Bronagh Duffin of the Bakehouse, and I wish that it was possible. This is a feast for the senses. Delighted to be here today. Thank you so much for joining us in conversation, and I can't wait to hear how the Bakehouse came to be.
Thank you, Sheila. It's lovely to be part of this podcast. It's been a really exciting journey for me and unpredictable, but yeah, a lot of fun along the way.
The best stories in life are often the unpredictable ones and the unexpected ones. And so we'll get stuck in, Bronagh.
Sure.
So the Bakehouse is the tangible and physical representation of your love of and passion for food. Can you tell us a wee bit about how this love developed right from your childhood up to the present day?
Well, so I created my bakehouse just around 2017. It's based at my home, although I also do other classes and experiences in other venues. So I was just influenced my whole life, my whole family really into food, especially my granny, my mummy, my father, my aunties. So I wanted to create this experience, a really like an at-home experience where people can come into a typical traditional Irish home, make Irish food, and just that lovely Irish welcome. That's what I wanted to achieve. Just to do honour to my family who had given me such a great food legacy. So I just believe food that really defines a culture, and what a better way to reflect your culture by creating Irish food experiences.
So it really is a celebration of the very foundation of family, celebration of the very foundation of your love of all things Irish in terms of food, in terms of all of those lovely recipes that I imagine have probably been passed down through the generations, and then that you're able to build that legacy going forward.
So here's one that we've got here. This is one of my favourite ones, Granny's soda farls. So that's just a classic soda farl recipe, the type of one that my granny would have made for us when I was a child. Standing at the stove, she was buttering the soda farls, the butter coming down your fingers. So there's some I made earlier, and we'll maybe have a little taste of those.
I can't wait, because I'm not going to lie. When I was watching you bake this, I was literally transported back through the recesses and the windows of my mind to a moment in childhood that I have never thought about. And that just shows you the power of food and the power of smell. It really is an emotion memory. And I can see myself, just as you have described, in my aunt's kitchen. She was a phenomenal baker as well. And she made homemade soda farls on the griddle. And I can remember eating them as they came off the griddle, lovely and warm, melted butter. But what we used to do was we put spoonfuls of sugar on them.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, everything that was wrong and bad for you. So I haven't smelt or tasted anything quite like that, so I'm looking forward to when we finish this as well.
I know,
all good to go.
So when I built this cookery school, it was so important to have an open fire. So you'll see there, we've got a little hook there, so I can actually hang my griddle there and cook the bread over the turf fire, which is just
so
lovely,
really authentic,
really nice welcome if you're coming in to a class. Back in the day, that's the way my great granny would have made it. But, my own granny, I always say, she would have been like a great food influencer. She would have had her own Instagram account. She grew her own vegetables. The food was simple, honest. It was just amazing. But she was the sort of woman, if she sliced up a tomato that they picked from the garden, put a wee bit of salt on it, it's just like the best tomato you ever had in your life.
Just like a little drop of heaven.
Simple food, but it was never plain. It just was always so good, always tasty. And then Granda Joe, he had the garden and grew all the usual vegetables, your celery, onions, carrots, potatoes, scallions. I mean, to them, a comfort meal was freshly dug potatoes, a bit of butter, some salt, and he would chop up a shallot or a scallion and put that over, and that was just unreal.
Just a plate of pure goodness.
Yeah.
So they really were ahead of their time before. Is it farm to fork became,
Yes.
you know, the big slogan before there were any big supermarkets or anything like that.
Yeah.
It literally was, you eat what you grow, and it was fresh and wholesome and full of nourishment and flavour, most importantly.
Like now it's like something trendy. It's like it's just been discovered. But back then in the 80s, that was normal. That was life. And yeah, it was good, wholesome life, you know?
And it just shows you how much things have changed, because, you know, my mum was a great baker. We didn't get biscuits or store-bought biscuits or anything like that. And our treat after our dinner, or, you know, if we were having a birthday party, she would have baked our cakes, was those lovely homemade Madeira buns.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would give my eye teeth for one of those now, and I can't recreate that flavour or experience anywhere.
Sounds like a
Maybe
challenge.
here you might be able to do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, closer to home than my mummy, she was diagnosed celiac when my youngest brother was born. So, you know, with the celiac diet, obviously you're not allowed to eat gluten, you know, the protein in the flour. So that meant, you know, a lot of our food at home, you know, it was made from scratch. So we just had to rethink recipes. But, you know, healthy eating was always kind of commonplace when I grew up. And although she did have a chocolate drawer, so she's a drawer in the house, in the kitchen.
Is she a teacher, by the
Yeah,
way?
she is.
All teachers have a chocolate
Is
drawer.
that right? Yeah. So it was filled with, she loves dark chocolate, and so do I. Yeah, and every day after dinner, she would have a couple of squares of dark chocolate, and mind you, I had a few as well. But now the grandchildren, they've found out about the drawer. So.
The drawer, yes, the infamous drawer, and it's
Yes.
never empty, it never depletes.
No, never. So it's lovely memories, you know. I mean, even my daddy, he would have gone out and come back in with a big bag of fish and chips. Oh my goodness. And, you know, fish and chips now, they'll never taste the way those tasted. Just, oh my goodness, it was just absolute
Wrapped
comfort.
in newspaper and all of that. Yeah, you wouldn't get that nowadays. But I will say that I think that added to the flavour, all of those experiences.
Yeah.
And I don't think that what you're talking about is nostalgic. You know, it's not looking at the past through rose-coloured glasses. You have actually and are actually recreating that and living that in the here and now. And I think that's so important in a world where, you know, I worried that, and this is where I'm going to show my failures as a mother, that when my children went to university, that they wouldn't be able to boil an egg. Yeah. But I must have done something right, because they didn't starve and they were able to cook their own food. But in a world today where if it doesn't ping or go ding or come out of something that is, you know, ready-made, you know, what do you do? What do young people do, or how do they know where to go to find the, you know, how to cook or even to peel a potato and to make something as simple as mashed potato, or what do you call that dish with the scallions and mash in it? Champ. Yeah. I was tortured and terrorised by that. You know, that's my one failure as an Irish woman. Oh, yeah. I cannot abide champ in any shape, way or form. My mother, I think she thought she'd got the wrong child out of the hospital. But a lot of what you're saying, I can relate to as well. It would have been a staple in our house growing up too.
Yeah, I always tell the visitors that come here, you know, tourists, that, you know, we have a lot of rain here. We don't have a lot of sunshine. So our sunshine is carbohydrates. It's potatoes, bread, and, you know, and we have butter with everything. You know, it's all those lovely comfort carbs. So,
and they go away, and I'm sure they're still licking their fingers and living off that experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just talking about potatoes, like we didn't have takeaways growing up. You know, there was no chippy, no Chinese in the village. So, you know, Friday was chip day. You know, Mommy was peeling the spuds and just lovely chips done in the chip pan with salt and vinegar. Oh my goodness. Best.
Fluff, balls of fluff, you know. Yeah. And again, that's one thing. I was blessed to have such a wonderful mother-in-law, and she made, I have never tasted chips like it. Yes. I don't know what she did, or she must have done something wonderful with the potatoes, but they were old school chips. Yeah. You know, I couldn't recreate them. I don't know what she did, but it was just all in the knack. And I think that's a big, big thing that you're capturing here in the bakehouse all the time is that it's a love of food, a passion of food, fresh produce, and it's not thinking that you have to, try something very, very different. You used the words ordinary there, but you're like Seamus Heaney making something ordinary, extraordinary through your own art, which is the bakehouse.
Yeah.
So, Bronagh, before the bakehouse came into fruition, you had a very different career path. Can you share with us what that was and explain what it was that actually motivated you to leave your former career pathway and then to launch your business and your brand, the Bakehouse?
Yeah. Well, I suppose I've always worked in practical roles to some extent. So when I left school, I went to Belfast Tech and I did a HND in textile technology. So I always loved working with craft. And then I went on to Leicester to do the degree in textile technology. My first job then was at Clark's of Upperland. So that was an old linen mill dating back from 1796. So it actually has one of the oldest beetling mills in the world. So beetling's it's a method of pounding linen to create a lovely sheen. So I just loved, the ancient, the old workshops and just walking through the looms, listening to the noises, the smells of, I suppose, just everything was old, but I loved it. I loved being, like it hadn't changed much maybe in 100 years. And I loved that. But yes, then with the influence of cheaper, products from Eastern Europe, so a lot of the Irish textile industry dissolved. So then I retrained as a nurse.
Okay.
So after the children were born, I retrained as a nurse and ended up as a theatre nurse in the Northern Trust.
Wow.
So I was there for 10 years. So really enjoyed that too.
So you have always been, what I'm hearing anyway, is involved in something that has a finished product. There's something to show at the end of it, even with your nursing career there and being a theatre nurse, people who are coming in with an ailment or an illness or a condition and they're going out and that has been fixed. And it's very much that there's there's a process, something to do. And that was kind of sandwiched in the middle of two things that are very firmly rooted in tradition.
Yes.
And again, I think that comes back to the legacy of being very grounded in, rooted in, and very comfortable and very proud of your heritage and your roots here in Ireland as well. And certainly this area I think has just been a very fertile breeding ground for so many talented and wonderful people. And again, it's all of the ordinary things that people just take, for granted on a day and a daily basis. But it's that ordinary that makes the extraordinary. And that's what you're really doing. So it's been, even in that, there's quite an extraordinary career arc there, from textile to theatre nurse to opening your own business and brand. You're not afraid of a challenge, Bronagh?
I don't know. But I think the day you stop being afraid is the day you kind of maybe... No, you need just a wee bit of fear and, helps as well.
Yeah, it's a good catalyst. And it's something that if you're doing something that you love, that kind of maybe helps to manage the fear and makes it something that it's a healthy fear rather than something that is negative.
Yeah. So when I was studying for my textile degree, I moved to Leicester. That's where I studied at. So, when I was in Leicester, I was just amazed by the markets full of bright coloured fruit and vegetables, spices. So I lived with a lot of students from Kenya and India, Pakistan. So they shared their recipes with me and I shared my Irish recipes with them. They loved my potato obsession. They taught me how to make a lovely curry with chickpeas, potatoes, cauliflower. So absolutely hooked. So Indian food is one of my favorite things to cook, actually. And it just brings me back to my days living in Leicester, in the Midlands, just so much colour and taste. So yeah.
And isn't it wonderful there? So you went from small little village in Ireland over to Leicester, as they talk about across the water. You met so many other nationalities, and yet the one thing that you all had in common was the sociable element of food and that kind of tradition. So it's something universal that kind of unites people. Even the social aspect of going, there's nothing more I love than going out for a bite to eat, going out for dinner, especially when I haven't cooked it myself. It's such a treat. So that very much that bonding
absolutely
was prevalent.
Yeah, we used to eat out a lot. There was London Road, which was the big road in Leicester full of restaurants, and they would take me out to Indian restaurants, and it was just such a ceremony, and we would go to different restaurants for dessert as well. So back then, they didn't drink. I didn't drink alcohol either. So so it was all about the food and the experiences. So.
And I'm sure that you enjoyed reveling in, I suppose every person, when they hear that you're from Ireland, they automatically think that you are a potato lover, a potato grower. So you really bought into that and shared that with them.
Yeah.
Were they amazed at what you could do with a potato?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I know. Oh, I was in heaven. I knew I was doing a textile degree, but every morning I would get up, if I didn't have class, go into the market and I could buy all my vegetables for the week for about maybe £10. It was unreal. The prices were so good and everything was so fresh.
You weren't tempted to go down to the local, whatever the big shopping store was and go in there. It was the markets. It was the farmers markets.
Yeah, outdoor market. Yeah, amazing. Absolutely.
And that's something that's actually been revived here as well, is the farmers market on the first Saturday of every month, which is brilliant, where people like yourself can come and showcase, or you have fresh fruit and veg and all of those, that lovely wholesome produce. And one of the things that, when I certainly, in my ignorance, and I don't mind holding my hands up to say that, is that, even a bog standard carrot, that they're not all the same shape and size, that some of the things that if I saw in a supermarket, I'd be thinking, no, that looks a bit dodgy, but that's a perfect, it's perfect, and probably full of flavour as well. So all of those things are very much, there's a great revival in that too. So it's interesting that as a young woman that you were living that and loving that experience.
Yeah, well, I think when I was 12, I actually turned vegetarian. So
okay,
I just threw that into. So that's another reason why I cooked so much as well. And I had to cook to survive. So I wanted my food to taste good and to look good, and that was a big influence as well. Plus the other thing, my first kind of proper trip abroad was to Italy. Went to the Amalfi Coast, to Sorrento, and it just blew my mind.
Nothing too shabby about that, Bronagh.
No. The food, simple food, gorgeous flavours. Obviously, sunshine makes everything better. I had my first olive in Italy and I've never looked back. So I always wanted to love olives, and why not taste them in Italy?
Here, if you're going to do it right. That's it. Definitely, I would say they're an acquired taste, but I wouldn't say that I have a very well-developed palate in that regard at all.
Also, when I was a nurse, I always brought lots of little treats in for all the staff. So a favourite in theatre was my seeded flapjacks. So they were very good. So
I can imagine that they would have been very well received. And also the hard work and effort and the thought that goes into that process. There's a lady in school, and I'm not going to name her name, but she's a phenomenal baker, and her children are as well. And at key times of the year, she will bring in little tins of and boxes of goodies that she has made at home. And I'm telling you, I've never tasted anything like them. Absolutely delicious. And everyone is so appreciative of them, because of the hard work and effort that goes into that. So it is a labour of love.
yeah. To me, though, cooking, it's my great relaxation. There's nothing more than a nice, tidy kitchen. It just makes me want to cook, and it just makes me very happy.
You are never coming to see me in my kitchen when I'm cooking. You would be appalled. There's nothing tidy about it. And yeah, I can't have anybody in with me. So how you manage so many people doing that, you're extremely comfortable and confident and competent in what you're doing. And also you love it as well. And to see the novices and the newbies and, all being able to produce something and to have that goal at the end of it, to have something to show for it.
Definitely. Well, when I started my business, I was a bit naive and I thought, let's bring everyone in. Like, we did these supper parties. So someone did a starter, someone did a main, someone did a side, someone did a cocktail, someone did dessert, and so on. And I thought it was great fun. Give everybody a recipe and I'll come round. There's all your ingredients, your equipment you need. I'll come round and we'll have the chats and, it'll be great. And it was really good. And then we all sat down and we ate together and we did lots of those events and I loved them. But, as I got older, it is a bit more stressful. And now we're all making the same recipe. Now you're all cracking your egg at the same time. You're all adding your flour at the same time. And, I've become a control freak.
I think there's a bit of a teacher in you too, Bronagh, definitely, without doubt, without doubt. So really so all of the skills that you have had, acquired skills, not just through your degree, in textile and then retraining as a nurse. But underpinning all of that always was your passion for food. So, whilst other people may be thinking, God, that's a bit of a circuitous route to get to where you're at. Not really, because it's been something that you have lived and loved your entire life.
Yeah, it was always my therapy, my relaxation. In our family, that's what we talk about when we get together. We just talk about food, what we've had for dinner, what we're having tomorrow night for dinner, what we had for breakfast. And, it's just, I don't know, it entertains us. It's part of who we are.
So, Bronagh, the strapline and the philosophy of your brand, the Bakehouse, is the home of loving food. And I just love that. I think it just encapsulates such a powerful and important message about enabling a positive relationship with food, something I think that's really needed in the world that we live in today. So can you delve into that a little bit more for us?
For me, food and cooking, it's about connecting with those around you as well as, I suppose, your culture, where you live in. It's those memories. And it's also a great way to show how you care for people. So, to me, I just love cooking for family and friends, and it's a great way to share your love, love people. So I just wanted to create somewhere like, my ethos was my granny's kitchen. So when you walk in here, it's like people think they're walking into my home kitchen, but it's that welcoming, warming welcome, and the food, the lovely smells. And, there's no diet here. There's no good or bad foods. Everything's good. And, just respect where the food came from. And, at the minute, sometimes there could be people have bad relationships with food. But to me, it's just all about healthy food, making it taste and look really good and cherishing the memories.
I do. And I think that comes back very much to what we were talking about earlier. The fact that when you think about what the ethos that the Bakehouse is rooted in was that connection of growing your own food and cultivating your own food, making what was in season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And flavouring it and making it tasty. Even that relationship of loving food. And just to take it a wee bit further, the ripple effect, your granny, your mummy, and loving that relationship with food and loving passing down the legacy of recipes and the methods and the process and enjoying then loving sitting down with each other. So it's much more than just about loving what goes into your mouth. I think it's a much deeper relationship with food that you have really managed to capture here through the Bakehouse.
Yeah, so it's a journey. It's, selecting your recipe. So maybe a recipe I've had, for, a few years handed down, selecting your recipe, then selecting your lovely ingredients, locally grown, whether it's, going to, the local farmer's market or something you've grown yourself or purchased locally, and then making it into the recipe, and cooking with people and enjoying it together. So, that's a journey.
The fact that you say there, and it is quite striking, and I think that's so important for people to kind of think about. There is no such thing as good or bad food.
Yeah.
It's, the quantities that we eat of it. It's making sure, you've used the word balance, that you're getting the right balance, and that you are actually being mindful that you're eating. I know that one of the big rules in our house at the dinner table, again, I'm giving away all my bad parenting strategies. There were no phones allowed at the dinner table, no mobile phones. We didn't eat in front of the television. We all sat down around the table and we talked to each other and we shared whatever it was that was put on the plate. And, we were very mindful that we were eating, and it was that kind of healthy relationship with food, and having a set meal time, which is very important too. And I think that if you kind of trace back everything that you're doing and saying, that's very much fundamentally at the heart of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like having things, I like to have, nice plates, nice cutlery, a nice glass, have your napkin, your jug of water. Every meal's like a little ceremony. It's just a little way to cherish and look after yourself and those around you. So it is. There is
a process and a ritual to that I think that the pace of life and the again, coming back to that, if it doesn't ping or go ding or come out of something that is encased in some kind of a plastic pouch. And mind you, if you open my cupboard, there's many a plastic pouch in it. So I'm not anti that either. Sometimes you do need just to have something on the go. But that's the exception as opposed to the rule. And I think what you're really showing here is that it's about attitude, and kind of shifting the dynamic of your own daily life, because that's what I came away from that really fun experience with my family. I was baking, everybody went on a phase of baking banana bread and things like that. But it was homemade, and it was, even the smell of it. And my wee grandchildren, when they were coming in, they were like, oh, Granny, can I, so even passing on that love of food and that memory for them, it's so important.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be anything fancy, like a nice bowl of leek and potato soup. It's just... yeah, it's perfect.
That's the other thing. You introduced me to the spiced lentil soup.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I make that all the time. Myself and Cara, we could eat that from here too. And I mean, it is so simple, but so tasty. Yeah. And that's a lovely recipe that you passed on. So
absolutely. It's amazing. Plus there is 30 grams of protein in every bowl. So who knew?
It's good for you.
Yeah. Low calorie, high protein, really tasty, loads of fiber. All the buzzwords are there.
All of those buzzwords. But what I can't is how easy it is. Like, I didn't have to go searching for really exotic ingredients. It doesn't, and I'm, working as well. And if I make that, I can freeze it if needs be. Although I never have to, because there's never enough of it left. There's people coming in and taking bowlfuls. Like I've seen myself carrying it up to Mummy and Antrim. If I'm making more of that soup, can I have some? Yeah, no problem. So there's always a demand for it because it's just so tasty. So I'm mighty proud of myself for that. So thank you. No the brand of loving food is living on.
It's all store-cupboard ingredients. Lentils, chickpeas, can of tomatoes. They're essentials. And if you have an onion, even better.
As I've mentioned, Bronagh, and I keep coming back to this, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm going to get all the food puns in here. I have personal experience of the deliciously decadent and divine cookery experience and classes that you offer here. And I have to say that I've never experienced anything like it. It was absolutely phenomenal. And to have so many eclectic personalities in my family, all singing off the same hymn sheet. They're all like, when are we going back? We need to do this again. So it was absolutely wonderful. So when you are designing and curating these experiences, and this is where I get ready for another pun, what is it that you want your guests' takeaway to be when they leave?
Well, I want to create an authentic experience. It's all about giving people skills, stories, and a bit of laughter. And, you know, they come away with a lovely meal as well and a nice memory. And yeah, so yeah, skills, stories, laughter. I think that's important to me.
yeah.
And just a sense of coming home, almost a sense of like going back to their childhood again, getting their hands into a bowl of dough. It's amazing. A group of people working away together, making homemade pasta or soda bread or potato bread or making sauerkraut, whatever. It's just chopping, mixing, kneading. It just, you know, takes you away from the stress of your normal life. And, you know, and it's not complicated. And I want to try and make it easy for people.
And developing that kind of, there is a real social element involved in that. And it is therapeutic, you know, the kind of kneading and the chopping and all of those elements and aspects that when you are kind of buying things that are ready-made, be that mash, be that carrots and parsnips or whatever, that you're missing out on, then it becomes, you know, your relationship with preparing a meal, your relationship with consuming a meal, it becomes nearly something that you resent doing. Whereas when you're in that, when you have that skill set, when you are taking, you know, the time to choose out the right vegetables, to prepare, to cook, to chat, you know, whether that's having your children, your grandchildren, your partner, whoever it is involved in it, it becomes something that you can do together, either as a family or a couple or whatever. And I think that's an important aspect that kind of lost a wee bit in society today.
I suppose it's, you know, the food, you know, the reason I cook from scratch is, you know, you want to know what you're putting into your body. It's nutritious. It's often can be cheaper as well. And, you know, you can work it to your taste.
So, Bronagh, one of the things that you've just said there that I think is really, really, really important, you've said that it's often cheaper to cook fresh, to cook from scratch, that if you, you know, kind of plan for the week ahead, if you know, you give the example of going to the farmer's market there, if you are going to the right places and you're sourcing the right food, the only expense, if there is one, is that it takes a little bit of time and planning. So I think that that's a huge, huge point that kind of you've just dispelled, you know, the myth that, oh, it costs so much more if you're going to eat fresh. And there's probably less wastage as well, I would imagine.
Oh, I know, definitely. I mean, not everyone, I get it. If people are working full time, you know, families, it's hard to be organized. But even if you have one dish and you say, I'm going to make this dish every week, like your lentil soup, the red lentil chickpea and chili soup that I make, I'm obsessed by it. It's always in my freezer, but it costs about maybe £4 to make that. So that would do 7 lunches, or you could squeeze them into 5 lunches. Tasty, healthy, cheap, nutritious, and easy. Just buy yourself some little freezer airtight glass boxes and you can put those in the freezer. You know, take them out in the morning when you go to work. Like I said before, 30 grams of protein per portion, you know.
You know,
healthy.
and that you like £4 for a week's worth of lunches.
Yeah.
£4 wouldn't buy you a lunch, you know, if you were going out to lunch.
I always think of my granny's store cupboard. She had an amazing store cupboard. You know, everything was there. You'd like lentils, you'd all your oils and salt and flour and things you would need, she would never run out. So, I mean, I always have a good store cupboard as well. Plenty of lentils, dried beans, spices, herbs, oils, flour. You can make a meal, simple things. If you have an egg, an onion, some oil, rice, potatoes, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like whenever you see kind of all of those ingredients, I think there was an advertisement that really, it was a very clever marketing campaign. You open the fridge or you open the cupboard, and I think the strap line was that, oh, that's typical of your mum. She can make something out of nothing all the time. And that's what it would have seemed like, that these kind of core ingredients were transformed into these extraordinary dishes.
I have started making my own bread from scratch probably since the start of May. Homemade bread is lovely. So, I mean, you're talking very few ingredients compared to what you would read on the back of a regular
Yeah.
loaf of bread. You're talking flour, yeast, oil, a wee bit of honey for sweetness, some salt. Yeah, it's just
And
quite easy.
how long would that take you? Just, if you're thinking, obviously, we've said that people are, I suppose, they're rich in many ways, but not with time.
Absolutely.
So how?
Probably about maybe 3 to 4 hours, but I would do it in the evening. So you mix up your ingredients. As I use like a stretch and fold method. You're developing your gluten, and then you'd maybe have to let it prove a couple of times. But and then I would bake it in a Dutch oven. In my Le Creuset pot. But just the smell of it, it's unreal and
Therapy.
so nice.
It's therapy. The whole
Yeah.
process. It's a sensory process from the kind of touch, the scent, and obviously then the payoff is the
Yeah.
taste at the end. Well, I think there's lots of takeaways there for everybody, Bronagh, and as well as what they're actually walking out with physically, whether it's their little box of scones or goodies from the afternoon tea or whatever the case may be. There's so much more in terms of the overall experience, and whether that is that they are taken away to make a batch of scones once a month or something that they haven't been doing
Absolutely.
ordinarily.
And I do offer a range of classes, things baking, cooking and foraging. It could be, there's balance, we do luxurious afternoon tea classes where you're having the lovely scones with homemade jam, lots of cream, little treats. But then there's also healthy classes. So I have a new class called Preserve the Seasons. So people will make their own sauerkraut, which is a fermented cabbage. And we know how good all this is for your gut microbiome now. So they make their own pickles, their own sauerkraut, and I do chutney and jam. So it's just another skill, learning how to preserve food, as well through.
And I love the name there, Preserve the Seasons. And again, if we were to unpick and unpack that, we could go on talk about that for hours. The takeaway with that as well. So, Bronagh, in addition to the takeaway that your guests have after their lovely classes and cookery experiences that you offer here in the Bakehouse, you're a very busy woman. You have just launched a new experience called Bake a Wee Bit of Belfast, which brings the Bakehouse experience to McHugh's Bar in Belfast.
Yeah.
And you've also launched an afternoon tea recipe book as well. So can you tell us more about these projects? And I know that you have a few other projects that you have just launched recently. So would you share a wee bit about those for us?
Well, I suppose I was driving into Belfast one evening. I seen the huge cruise ship sitting there and I thought, that's all those people. And, but whereas I'm 40 minutes from Belfast, it's quite a drive. So I thought, why not bring my experience to Belfast? So I was delighted when I was able to collaborate with McHugh's Bar. So basically, I have a class here, my traditional Irish bread baking experience, where guests make their own wheaten bread, soda farls and potato bread. And then they have lunch, usually soup made from my vegetables that grow in the garden. So I'm taking that whole experience to Belfast with my portable griddles and the kitchen. They'll allow me a shelf in the kitchen where I can make some Guinness wheaten bread. Everyone will get a bowl and it'll be great fun. It only launched kind of towards the end of July, so I have to do a wee bit of promotion around that. But so McHugh's Bar is the oldest building in Belfast, so it's so much character, and to be able to offer it there is amazing.
So they're getting the history of McHugh's, the oldest bar in Belfast. Yeah. They're getting to experience, I suppose, the history of food and those delicacies of Irish breads, and some freshly made vegetable broth and soup by your own hands from vegetables in your garden. So I'm quite sure the crack is 90 in those experiences, and that there's lots of, I would imagine, lots of American tourists perhaps who love all of that too.
Yeah, no, they do. They adore our food, and especially the butter.
Yeah.
So, no, it's great. I love it. I love meeting new people and sharing a little piece of Balahi with them.
Absolutely. You know, and if Balahi won't, or if they won't come to Balahi, you certainly will take Balahi to them.
Yes, and then my little afternoon tea recipe book. So just my favourite afternoon tea recipe. So I would say after lockdown, so I started doing afternoon tea boxes during lockdown, and that was kind of my signature for a few years. So I thought put it into a little book, and then everyone will have it. So the book
is absolutely phenomenal. And I know I got one for my sister for her birthday there in June. And we were having, you'll love this, we were having a chat on the phone the other day, and she was raving about this book. And there's a lovely little recipe. I think it's for some kind of preserve or jam, Prosecco and strawberry, or Prosecco and raspberry jam. And that's what she is going to make. And she's going to gift that. Oh God, I maybe shouldn't have said that. Spoiler alert. But that's what she's going to do. And she's so excited, you know, about getting that. And again, the thought that goes into that, you know, to have something that is homemade, that has been gifted to you by someone that you care about, who's gone to the time and effort of doing that, you know, and the value added and the joy that brings her. So I said, I have to tell Bronagh that whenever we're out today. Yeah. So just act surprised if they get one.
It was lovely, you know, making all the recipes. And I went up, there's a girl in Belfast, Sharon Cosgrove, so she did all the photography for me, and it was lovely. Just we had a few days shooting. So,
and if people want to order one of those little cookery books,
they can be ordered on my website. So, and all my classes can be booked on my website as well, BakehouseNI.com. So or you can see my socials at BakehouseNI on Instagram, Facebook. So
if they search the Bakehouse on Instagram and Facebook, they'll be able to see all of those kind of experiences.
That's right.
And you have your own website. And if they want to order the afternoon tea recipe booklet or any of the classes, which I thoroughly recommend. And I know you haven't mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it. You also offer, and they'll see it on the website as well.
Yes.
It's a really unique experience, the Gypsy Caravan.
Oh yes, I have a little traditional, traveller caravan. We bought it about 4 years ago, and it's just really unique. It was really popular when I first launched it. So you'll come in here, I'll cook your afternoon tea in front of you, and then I'll serve it to you in the Gypsy Caravan. So it's a 5-course afternoon tea, all completely made from scratch. So you have a welcome kind of like an antipasti platter, a wee bit of Italian there. You know, cheeses, olives, nice little nibbly bits. Then you'll watch me cook. So I'll do your scones. We do raspberry and white chocolate scones. We'll do a cake of the day. It's usually a lemon drizzle cake.
Oh, it's delicious. So, I know. Oh.
Now, lemon drizzle cake's not exciting, but warm lemon drizzle cake is exciting. So,
will I tell you, your lemon drizzle cake is to die for. It's a little drop of heaven. It is absolutely. And that's something Anne still bakes religiously. And Mummy asks her will you make, will you make, will you make? So she's quite proud of herself for that. So there's another takeaway, and that's just from our group being round the table here a few years ago.
I also do savoury bits as well. I always do a savoury soup, and I do my Italian soda bread. So I think I like afternoon tea to be a little savoury as well. So it can be too sweet, sickly sweet sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Again, you have the balance there, a little bit of savoury with a little bit of sweet. So the best of both worlds.
yeah, I know it's lovely. Yeah, I enjoy it as well. So
Very good, very good. So there's there's an eclectic range of classes and things that you offer there. And if you're about McHugh's Bar someday, pop in. You could see Bronagh and observe a cookery class in motion, and maybe perhaps book in.
yeah, absolutely.
Again.
Yeah.
Is it open? Is it just open to cruise line passengers?
No, it's open to everyone.
To everyone. Yeah. So
but they were just my inspiration. So.
very good, very good. Quite partial to a cruise myself as well. So
Yeah.
that's a whole other podcast in and of itself. So, Bronagh, I know that one of the new projects that you have launched at the minute is a phenomenally important one. And it's a very inspirational one, and it just goes to show the power of food. And the project is called Bake Bread for Peace. So I think on two levels, in terms of the global context and also our own local context with the Troubles, it's really something, I think, that it speaks volumes. So would you tell us a wee bit about that?
Well, I think, bake bread for peace, it's so important, breaking bread, making bread together, sharing the experience, with communities. It's fantastic. So, yeah, so the experience it's similar to the one I do here, the bread baking, where you bake your wheaten bread, your soda bread, and your potato bread. So I do it up at a community centre near the Peace Wall in Belfast, an area absolutely steeped in history and, hope for the future. So baking bread, it's a wonderful way to bring communities together. So this experience is open to everyone. The dates are on my website. So
Okay. And I just think that, again, it's that bonding, and it's reminding of everyone, that the hospitality that's involved in that extending of cooking together, sharing food together. It's the layers that we could go into unpacking that is so important. And again, I just think that's phenomenally important, and it's all based around that philosophy of food, that you loving food that we've talked about earlier. So the authenticity and the passion and the love of the Bakehouse as a creative entity is very firmly rooted into what you're doing. It's nearly the yeast. I love that one. Really good. I'm on my A game today. So, Bronagh, I think we've been chatting that long. I think we're working up an appetite at this point. So what words of wisdom, Bronagh, do you have for anyone who is thinking of doing what you did? Now, that is to make their passion their business, and to live out the expression that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, one thing that I have to prefix this with is that I know that there are 3 key ingredients that you maybe are necessary, that aren't tangible, and that's the blood, sweat and tears that goes into creating this. But what words of wisdom would you have for someone who is thinking of making their passion their business?
Well, start with something that you are truly authentic about, something you know and love, something you would do even if you weren't being paid for it, like baking, something you love and you can't go wrong. And it's doing it, wanting to contribute and show care to people. And it's, I just love it, every day. So
it really comes through that, it has to be something that you're passionate about. It's not something that your end goal is to make lots of money from.
Yeah.
If that's a consequence of it, well, that's a bonus, I think. But if you are truly passionate about building a brand and building a business, you have to be prepared to dig deep down into the trenches and to realize that it is going to be hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm quite sure, I'm just amazed at the setting that we are in here. But this just didn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. There was a lot of planning. There was a lot of grit, hard work, determination went into this. That was all built around the passion that you have for food.
Absolutely. And I learn from my customers as well. Every day is a learning day. There's always something new happening in food. And my customers, they teach me what they want to know and what classes I offer. I keep an eye on trends. So at the minute, fermented foods is very big. So that's why I offered my preserving and fermenting class. But no, I suppose I offer almost like a little piece of myself, as well. So that's what they're buying into. And, hopefully they come back with lovely memories from here.
So being authentic and not trying to, so you're not curating a persona. This is who you are. You live this. You love this. And this is, you've been able to build it into the Bakehouse. And I think that that's something that, I'm certainly hearing from you as well, that it has to be something that is authentic.
Yeah, my strapline, bake new memories.
And on that note, I think, Bronagh, that we have talked ourselves into our reward, which is this beautiful handmade, freshly made soda bread on the griddle. So thank you so much for joining us today in conversation. And if you want any more information on the Bakehouse, visit Bronagh's website or her socials on Instagram and Facebook. That's it for today.